when she went across the street. I didn't know anything about the honey hole until Sunday on Christmas on Main.
Everybody says happy.
That's right. So my understanding that last night, sell alcohol before 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. All right, at 10 o'clock. Yeah, that's what we call it Sunday school. 10 o'clock. Oh, no, not a problem at all, Marcy, yeah, but.
So people that we're really concerned to, if someone wants to serve, they say 10, they don't use that. No. They said they've been waiting to, the clock says 12 to serve them to suicide. That's what prompted it.
We're gonna just do a brief introduction.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Just give it another.
Yeah, they just cry like coming in. Is it before lunch or after lunch?
They were saying,
You better off do it at 10 o'clock, because they're going to wait lunch by 11, they come right by here.
Questions? Yeah. Yeah, it was good, actually. Everything looked good. I spent all day Monday with a webinar about the changes in the tax law. And I had the back of my mind about today's thing. So I could tell them, there's 1,000 changes, 999 of them don't affect. Tax law adjust estate tax levels to 15 million even by 2026. Now this is for the state, you're talking about gift tax. That's right, who's it at the top? Yeah. It's 15 even, in other words, for a married couple, mine is 30. Gift tax, 19. It simplified a lot of people's estate planning. Yeah.
the other is high cost of road maintenance, especially in North Carolina.
No. Probably what New York, California is high.
Good afternoon. See, it's 2 o'clock, and let's get this party going. Obviously, I believe the individuals that put this together thought there would be 300 or 400 people to show, and that did not happen. That did not happen. And at the last minute, I did recommend that I get a golf cart and go to each door and bring individuals here. And I couldn't find Will's golf court. My name is Jerome Scott, resident here at the Scotia Village, and we're here today to talk about, in fact, I saw on the listing, and maybe this is what threw people, I'm not sure, but it says Brightspire asked the experts. It doesn't say ask the experts about what. So we need to get a little clarity here. But those of you probably already know we're talking about things that we need to do as we grow older and we leave this place, if you will. And with that being said, I know in my experience, I always asked clients that I serve about have you looked at your information? Have you looked at your data? Have you looked at the information that you want to certainly happen when you're not at your residence? In other words, if I lose them there, I just say, have you what's going to happen when you die? Let's really make it happen. Let's get to the issue. And do people know what you want, and so forth? And a lot of times it doesn't get back to want. It's sometimes it's what's legally has to be done, if you will. I always encourage clients to look at their information twice a year, at least once, but twice a year, to see if it's in order. Also, make sure the names are right, if you will. And oftentimes I've got clients that have gotten mad at family members, and that reminds them to change the beneficiary. So those are some things. But we've got some experts at the table here, and what I'll do is allow them to go ahead and introduce themselves at this particular time, one by one, the name, rank, and serial number, and then I can get into some questions that's out there. A lot of these questions were asked by individuals, and they have been hermetically sealed, and no one knows about them. But we're going to get them across. But if you would, the first one, if you would, Carson.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Carson Spearing. I am the Director of Philanthropy at Kentura and leading our philanthropy efforts here at Scotia as of earlier this year. I have been with Kentura for almost 4 years now, and we work with residents on annual giving and major gifts to do different projects here, and certainly on planned giving to be able to give back to the community that has helped them. And we work with family members as well, and it's an honor of ours.
Thank you, Carson. If anyone wants to write a check to Carson now, it's okay. That's all right. But for Scotia, okay. Go ahead.
My name is Richard Bowles. I'm with Richard Bowles Funeral Service here in Laurinburg. I have been licensed as a funeral director since 1993. It's my 32nd year being in this industry. And I call it an industry because things have changed so much, even in our industry and our business as far as the funeral service is concerned. So I look forward to answering your questions. I am originally from Aberdeen, grew up at Bethesda Presbyterian Church, and has been coming to Camp Monroe for years, since I was about 6 or 7 years old. And so I love Scotland County. Been awful good to us.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. I had a question as it relates to your what you do, the funeral. Do they have theme funerals now? You know,
Theme funerals?
theme funerals.
Yes, sir.
In other words, people dressed up in Halloween attire because this is what the decedent wanted.
Yes, the Cosmo, which is the what do you call those folks that the superheroes,
Yeah.
and all those things. There is a big following of those,
Okay.
and I had a gentleman here that was known throughout the eastern part of the United States, and he passed away in his early 50s, and they came from everywhere. I might have been the only one with a suit on.
Was he buried
at
in
the-
his Superman
Yes, he was.
suit?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's something for everyone to think about, if you will. Or Superwoman, I don't know. That's right. But okay. Thank you very much.
I'm Alan Livingston. I'm a CPA for 50 years now in Laurinburg. I was born and raised in Laurinburg and have been practicing here the whole time. I do a lot of tax returns, including any given year, about a dozen residents of Scotia Village.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I guess we can say things are up and things are down, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
All right.
If I look
Okay.
a little bit dazed, it's
Okay.
because I spent all day Monday listening to a webinar about the changes in the tax law.
Right.
So
Okay. All
lucky
right.
for you, 99% of them do not affect you.
All right. Good. All righty. Super. Thank you very much.
And I'm Drew Williamson. I'm an attorney here in Laurinburg. I'm also a Laurinburg native. I had both of my parents were here at Scotia Village. As Alan and maybe Richard as well, been active in years past on the board, so I feel very much at home here and glad to see all of you and hope we can answer your questions.
And you do the taxes, you say?
I'm an attorney.
Attorney. Okay, pardon me. Okay, fine.
tax guy.
Oh, that's the tax guy. Okay. Are you writing this off today, anyway? Forget I said that. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we have the panel, the experts, and I've got some questions here that have come up. And Richard, we're going to start with you. And we're going to talk about what can one do to make the funeral planning process easier for their family after they pass away? What can that person do to help that family?
I think it's important that we speak with our family before you speak to the funeral director. In other words, let your family know what your wishes are, what your desires are when that time does come. A lot of folks here at Scotia are not native of Scotland County, and they may want to go back to where they came here from, to where some of their family members may already be interred in the cemetery. And we can arrange all those things for you. I would think that the most important thing that you could do for your family is get one of these, and folks, this has my name on it, but it's good at any funeral home. I want you to know that. Just an information sheet just lets everybody in our industry know your biographical information, where you were born, your mother and father's name, your mother's maiden name. Those are the things that can hold a service up that a child may not know. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago, my mother and I were still together riding around up in Norwood, North Carolina. And I'm 63, my mother's 83. We rode down the road. She said, "Richard, that was the house I was born in." Had no clue of that. I knew she was from Stanley County, but I had no clue she was born in that house. So it's important that you talk to your children. Let them know what your desires are and your biographical information. Level of education. That is on the North Carolina death certificate. It has to be, a number has to be put there. 0 to whatever you spent your time in school. So there's a lot of things that you can do beforehand that makes it so much easier that when your family gets to that point, they make one phone call. What do I need to do now? And my question to them is going to be what day and what time, because your loved one has already taken care of all the information for you. And that's true love, that you can do that.
That's important, very important. Oftentimes, the individuals involved have not talked to the families, and that becomes a real big issue because they don't know what to do. And they think they're doing the best thing, but oftentimes they're not. And what ends up happening in the family is that they end up fighting over the lamp, a lamp, or a table, or whatever. The point is, this is a lively group.
Another thing too, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, thought I'd liven up a little for you.
Dig me
Yeah.
out of this hole.
Yeah. We've got a service going on right now, folks, and there's a lot of guys in here with the military and the ladies with the military background. I've got a family right now from Gibson that wanted to go back to what they told us was to Maryland, to the National Cemetery. So they didn't have a copy of a DD-214. They just said that he served, and they said he wanted to go to a national cemetery. So we started inquiring. It's not a national cemetery that they're talking about. There's 5 state cemeteries in Maryland, and it was a state cemetery, not a national cemetery. And there's a big difference when it
Sure.
comes to that part
Exactly.
of it. So it is important that you know and you discuss those things with your family so they'll know when they come to us what we can do, for their loved one.
Right. Exactly. Okay. We got a question now?
Where do we get the form that Mr. Bowles held up?
Well, it just so happens I've got a bag right here, and I've got plenty of them for you. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I do have those.
Super.
And truly, it's got my name on it. But if something happened and you went back to your original hometown, that same funeral director is going to need that same information. So it is a great thing to just have stated what you wish to have and all your information at that point. So, yes. Yes, Daphne.
If I can,
I was just going to say, what if you don't have any children or really close relatives to
So, if I can just interrupt, since we are streaming this to residents on YouTube, they will not be able to hear you clearly if we're asking questions now without a microphone. So, just as a courtesy to them, do you mind? Can we hold questions? We'll try to build in time for additional questions at the end, just so that everyone
Okay.
will be able to hear. Is
Yeah,
that-
that's my error, because did you tell me that? Doesn't matter, but just put it on me. Because this is being streamed, so if you don't have a mic, it's not, we don't want to hear from you. I just need to get you closer, or give you a mic or something.
Thank you, Daphne. I think you asked the question that if you did not have a family member or if you did not have anybody here, what would you do at that point? Yes, go talk to the funeral director, write down that information, and then whenever that time does come, be it with hospice or with whoever you're with at the time in which death occurs, they know who to contact, and at that point, everything starts, the wheel turning in the right direction.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I've got a question.
Go right ahead.
I hope it's-
Hold just a second.
Okay, I will. You can probably tell from my accent that I'm not from Scotland County, closer to Scotland than Scotland County. My question is a fairly simple one, really. Both my wife and I have got our slots already established at a place called Carlton Cemetery in Pulteney Fowl, Lancashire, England. If anything should happen to either of us, we obviously want cremating. You can obviously handle that. Can you handle the export of the remains across to another country?
Yes, sir, we can handle that for you. We just need a contact person there in England that we can send those to, be it at the cemetery
Yeah,
or...
the cemetery will be fine.
That's right. Yes, we can get that information and coordinate that in advance so we know when that time does happen, what to do.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I've worked in all sorts of places around the world, and it's surprising how many times we've had mostly people killed rather than died,
Right.
and you just don't know what to do with them, and you know what to do with them. Then you've got to get them out of the country.
Right.
Strange places like Nigeria, Botswana, and Southern Sudan, they hang around for a long time.
Yes, yes, sir. My question to you would be, are y'all going to go one at a time, or are you going to go together?
I'll answer that one. I'll answer that one for you. We have a special coin, we toss it every night.
There.
Okay,
It's not working.
okay. I'm doing it now.
Over.
Test.
We're, I think, getting new batteries here. Thank you. Here, Jerome.
Mike's dead.
You should hand that one to me.
Okay. No one caught that. I said the mic's dead. Boy, this is a tough group. Okay, we had a question, at least from Noel. We were talking about cremation. At least it wasn't a question. We answered that for Noel, cremation. Noel, I'm just curious. Are you a smoker? No, leave it alone. Okay, let's go to another question here. Drew, the attorney.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is something. What happens in North Carolina if one person passes away with no will? How often should people revisit their estate plans and beneficiary designations?
I'll answer one at a time. Is this on? Can you hear me? This is not.
I think the battery died on this one. It was working a minute ago.
Okay.
How about this?
Okay, we're good.
Thank you, Brendan, appreciate it.
You know that from the performances.
Yeah. So the first question about dying without a will in probably every state, but in North Carolina, there's what's called the Intestate Succession Act, which is really a formula that the state follows, which spells out various scenarios that if someone dies, leaving certain heirs who would inherit. And just as an example, someone with a spouse and 3 children, the spouse gets a percentage, the children divide the rest. If you have a spouse with no children, obviously everything to the spouse. And this just goes on to someone dying with no spouse, no children, and what happens next. So obviously, it's ideal to avoid that scenario and choose who you would want to benefit in your will. Although in many cases, as we all know, people do not have wills. That law is followed and it's pretty seamless. It's still certainly preferable, I think, for people to have thought this through for a lot of reasons we're going to talk about and identify their heirs. As far as when to revisit their estate plans, people who may have moved to North Carolina from another state, for example, as many of you may have, that would be one example. When you have a change in your life, your residence, although in all likelihood, if the terms of the will are the same, what we're really doing, if you bring it to an attorney in North Carolina, is to make sure that it was executed in that state in the same manner as it would need to be executed in North Carolina to be one that would be approved by the court. But there may be deaths in the family. There may be the person I had as executor has predeceased, or sometimes I've had a falling out with that person. I don't want them to be my executor. So it really is a case-by-case basis as to when to make those changes. Beneficiary designations, this may be in the context of a will, but I always ask my clients when they've come in and they're doing a will, and particularly and some people in this audience who have sold their real estate, really the bulk of their assets are in their investment accounts, and that besides personal belongings. And the key question I always ask is, have you confirmed that your investment accounts or bank accounts or other liquid funds have the designated beneficiaries that you desire, with and also alternates if necessary? Because in many cases, that by itself constitutes all the estate planning that may be needed in so many cases, that if the bulk of the asset is an investment account or investment accounts and they have been designated, that really leaves personal belongings. I think we'll talk about that later, about how to take care of that.
Drew, thank you very much on that. Follow-up on that would be, a will is necessary. It's extremely important to have. It's interesting walking, at least walking into people, talking to people, if you will, about that. And they say, well, Jerome, I got my will, it's all together. And I said, well, who drew it up? Well, I got mine from Walmart. Drew, is that any good, that Walmart will? Yeah, I mean, it's right there in the store.
Who knows? But I would say this, I am often brought in wills that, if not from Walmart, they may be from the internet.
Yeah.
And it's not that the format is improper. In many cases, they are not executed appropriately,
Right.
and the witnesses have not signed. I've had wills that were witnessed and notarized, but the notary did not acknowledge that the witness and the testator signed, and it's not been accepted. So, again, I guess it sounds like we don't want to sound like we're saying, come to the CPA, come to the lawyer, come to the funeral director. But how about that? But I do think, even if it's simply to review what you have, there can be benefit in that. And many times someone brings in a document or documents, I review them, I say, you're just fine like you got it, even though it came off the internet, it's acceptable. They may still decide they want a lawyer to redo it, but it's probably okay just as is.
Yeah, appreciate that. It's real interesting. We go to the hairdresser, we look at our garage mechanic, and we take advice from all these various people. They know nothing. They know less than you do, but you're going to take their advice. I don't understand that one, but at any rate, okay. Let's put Carson on the spot here and pass that down. We're going to loosen it up here. Do estate gifts or annual gifts to support residents' financial assistance at Scotia Village go to residents of other communities? What that is saying, you want to be selfish and just keep it here? Oh, gosh. Carson, it's on you.
Well, thanks, and rightfully so. I think it's the reason that you're giving is to support your neighbors here. So any gifts that go to support resident financial assistance here at Scotia Village remain at Scotia Village to support your neighbors. Bright Spire Foundation continues to support Scotia Village, Glen Eyre, River Landing, and our efforts in affordable housing, and despite the Kentura merger. So there are no dollars that you're giving that are going to Glen Eyre or to Wellspring, and it was a good question, and certainly wanted to provide clarification on that. And one thing I'll mention, a sort of shameless plug, since Jim McQueen is here, our volunteer for the annual appeal for this year, we will be sending out some information on Friday about a match opportunity that came up.
He's putting in a plug. He's
A
putting in a
generous
plug.
donor has made a gift. So just be on the lookout in your mailboxes on Friday for that. And I know many of you have given, so thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I'll say it again, he is expecting a check this afternoon.
Are you saying precisely there's no commingling of funds?
So,
Are you saying, Carson, there's no commingling of funds between the three entities under Bright Spire?
So for the charitable dollars, remain supporting the community that you've designated them to. So we're not moving, if you're designating your gift, and if you give to the Scotia Village Annual Appeal, you're designating it there, and those funds aren't going to help
Okay.
residents of other communities.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Carson, thank you very much for that answer. And Alan, from a tax perspective, what are the best or better ways to give charitable donations?
Well, there are a couple of preferred ways to give charitable donations. Of course, there's nothing wrong with the old-fashioned way of just writing a check and assuming you have enough deductions to itemize your deductions, which virtually all residents of Scotia Village do because of the medical write-off you get for your Scotia Village fees. So most of you who just write a check for a charitable donation, it will be tax deductible. A couple of the, one negative one of a way not to do a charitable deduction, in my opinion, and I've seen it done before, if you, I'm always thinking about income taxes. If in your will, you simply designate, I leave X number of dollars to this charity or this church, there is no income tax savings from that. A bequest by a will is deductible for estate tax purposes. If your estate was big enough that you owed estate taxes, but it does not save any income taxes. And these days, your estate has to be pretty darn huge. If you're single, your estate has to be over $15 million before you have to even worry about estate taxes. If you're married, if both spouses are alive, that's more like 30 million, 15 million each. So if you've got that problem, I'd like to give you my address and show you some pictures of my grandkids. But there are other options for charitable, and some of them, this gets down to, our fields overlap, and with Carson, this is one that overlaps, but there are ways to use charitable remainder trusts for where you, let's say this year you leave a bundle of money into a charitable remainder trust. What happens is that you can take a tax deduction for part of that money, the year that you put it in the charitable remainder trust, based on your life expectancy, depending on how old you are when you set up that trust or when you fund that trust. And then each year, depending on the language of that trust, you can draw income from the trust back to yourself. The only time the charity gets the money is when you die, whatever is called a remainder trust, because whatever's left in that trust at your death goes to the charity. So this is a means of getting a write-off, a partial write-off now, which is the pro, getting an annual income from that money, which is a pro, and perhaps if you wanted to call it a con, if you put $1 million in a charitable remainder trust, you don't get $1 million charitable write-off that year. If you were, say, 70 years old, boy, I'm guessing here with percentages, but you might get a charitable write-off for 60% of $600,000 for putting $1 million into a trust. So that gets complicated. If any of y'all are interested in that, talk to me or Carson or both of us about that possibility. So that's my thoughts on the best ways to do a charitable donation.
Okay, super. Would, again, I'm thinking about a charity. Would my grandchild be considered a charity? Can I set something on that?
No, she would not,
Okay.
unless the IRS had approved her and declared her a 501c3. You've all heard that term.
Yeah.
To be a charity, you have to have the official IRS application to be a charity, which is, of course, is very restrictive. No, there's gifts to individuals or not. Even, for example, even if it's for a good cause, if your church is supporting a poor family and you make a donation directly to that poor family, you don't get a charitable donation for that.
Super. Well, by me buying her a bicycle doesn't count, so I'll keep that in.
Make it through the church.
Make it to the church.
Even that is possible, but there's one restriction on that is that you could not make a donation to the church and say, I bequest this to the Jones family. If you make it specific, that won't work. But if the church has a special fund for needy families, and you are not the one who gets to decide which needy family gets the money, that will probably work. I forgot to mention one other, perhaps my favorite point about making charitable contributions. If you have an IRA plan or a 401k plan, well, IRAs, if you can make an annual, it's called a qualified charitable distribution, and probably, how many people in here are already making charitable donations out of their IRA account directly? Like you call up your broker and you say, I want to give $5,000 to the church this year. Okay, okay, I see a couple of hands there. I do it. You have to be at least 70 and 1/2 years old. And it has to be an IRA account. It cannot be a 401k account. And it's limited to, it was $100,000 per year, but they just raised it to $108,000 per year. But that way you get to take you guys are old enough where you're required to take money out of your IRA every year, called RMD, required minimum distribution. Well, if you give $10,000 to a charity or a church, that counts towards your required distribution. So if you're required to take out $30,000 this year, and you do $10,000 directly to the church, then you're only going to have to pay tax on $20,000. You get to deduct that charity off the top, and that's a good tax consequence. Another good result, remember I told you that if you leave money in your will, if you say, I leave $1 million to a charity, well, if instead, if you had an IRA and you said that I leave this, the beneficiary of the IRA is that charity, then there will be no income tax. The charity will get the $1 million, and charities don't have to pay income tax. So that is a wonderful way. I personally am doing that with my church. I'm not leaving in my entire IRA, but I'm going to break off a separate IRA, and at my death, the church will get that money. If I had instead left it to my children, and I told my children, okay, when you inherit this, I want you to give $100,000 to my church. Well, they would have to pay tax on the $100,000 when they took it out of the IRA. And then, but then they would get a charitable deduction when they gave it to the church, but it would slightly diminish the tax savings.
Thank you, thank you. Richard, question here is, what do most people not think about when it comes to planning their funeral? What do they not think about? Possibly the best time to go?
What-
Just
To be
go ahead.
announced date, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I think a lot of times people just take the little things for granted, and they don't discuss them. I know when I'm sitting down with families and we're discussing the plan or the desire, wishes of their loved one, sometimes it's the little things that mama said or daddy said that wasn't written down on a prearrangement that could be the major difference of a service, to be honest with you. You know, being involved in a certain WMA with the church or, you know, the Gideons, which I am. If you discuss those things beforehand, then 3 days after the service, you don't say, boy, I remember when they said that. I
Yeah,
forgot all about
that's
that.
it.
I wish
Yeah.
I'd have thought about that. And so it is important that you write the little things down to help your loved ones to go through the things that you want to have done for all of your desires.
Yeah, I want to make sure things are in place. I always encourage people to make sure somebody knows their passwords and usernames. People forget about that. That may come in handy.
Alan was just talking about how we overlay. Truth of the matter, all of us in here. I learn things every year that I'm here. That's why I love to come down here to be part of this with you guys. Through what Alan just said and what Drew was just talking about, I deal with a lot of folks that are not prepared. I'm awful thankful for the ones that are prepared. But I deal with a lot of folks who don't have a will. You have his, hers, and ours. And without a will, that really gets to be
It's sticky.
in a
It gets
situation.
sticky. It
Puts
gets-
me in a tough spot, you know. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of times in having those things together, like the three of us, and I don't have the 15 million, you know, so I'm not going to be able to do a lot of things with you. But it is important that all those things are laid down on a piece of paper where everybody knows what to do when that time does come.
Exactly, exactly. Where should, Drew, this is for you. Where should original and important estate documents be stored?
Well, whenever someone leaves my office, I always say, now make sure that you, not only that you know where you keep these items, but that your loved ones, the people you've identified, where that they would know, because if they can't be located, then we have a problem. And many people say, I have a safe at my house. Some people say, well, I'm going to put it in my safe deposit box at the bank, which I always remind them, well, I hope I hope your loved ones know that's where it is. I hope they can access it.
Right,
And the
right.
clerk of court must show up at the bank with you with your loved one to audit that. And so for me, that's not the ideal place, but it certainly is safe. My own personal experience, I mean, we were taking a trip one time, and my wife asked about our wheels, and I said, well, I know where they are. Then I started thinking, where in the world?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
fortunately,
I lost the key,
yeah,
so I
well,
can't
it's
get
sort of
it.
like the cobbler's children who have no shoes. You know, you tell everybody to do it, then you got to remember to do that yourself. So now she knows where I keep it, where we keep all that stuff. But it's personal preference. It just depends on so many things. I just think again the key is that others know where you keep them. You know, whether it's a desk, a safe. Place that you're confident that they'll be safe and that the others will know where you have left them.
All right. Richard, can a funeral home help insure the plans of someone? That the services, from the services?
Can they help?
Can they ensure that things are carried out? Can the funeral home just...
Well, we have what we call pre-planning funerals. I'm not sure about the insured part of it. Are you talking about the wishes or
The wishes.
the financial part of it?
No, the wishes of.
Oh, yeah. If you have it written down, and I've had families to be in a position where they wanted to go against what mom wrote down or what daddy wrote down, and I had made prearrangements with them, and I turned the paper around, just like a cremation in the state of North Carolina. There is a spot on that form that actually states that this is done on a prearrangement. And I wish to allow only the folks who I had designated here to change it, or I wish no one to change it. And the truth of the matter, at that point, the law's on my side. Well, I turned it around and said, this is what your loved one initialed, that he didn't want any change. And so that way I can make sure that their desires are taken care of.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, super. All right. Carson, if someone does not have dementia, is totally self-sufficient and not dependent upon an employee or any reason, and therefore cannot be manipulated in doing so, can they leave an individual Contura employee a request in their will?
I did not submit this question, I'll just say that. So we get this question occasionally because of the personal impact that our team members can have on residents at communities.
Yeah.
So it's a good question. Unfortunately, we have policies against this for good reason. So we have the no tipping policy. As you all know, we have a employee appreciation campaign each year for residents to be able to give back to employees, but you're not allowed to leave a bequest for an employee in your plans because one, it goes against the policy of tipping in a way, because that would be considered a tip, and two, it's a big conflict of interest. We really would not want our nurses in healthcare specifically taking better care of certain residents because they might have funds that they would be able to give them. You can imagine just how tricky that could be. And then those who may be on resident financial assistance, let's say, although that's highly confidential, let's say they weren't able to give anything back, they may not get the care that they deserve. So we have policies against that. I will just share that there are ways that you can give back through your estate plans to employees here. And one of those ways is actually the Williamson Scholarship that we have for employees that every year Alan and some of the leadership team members and some residents help review applications from employees here who are looking to further their education. So we do have members of our HICS Society and members of societies throughout Contura who have left funds for scholarships because that's how they want to give back to employees.
Okay, thank you. You can tell Carson is really methodical when he goes to this stuff. He's going to dot every I, cross every T. Okay, Drew, what steps can a person take to keep their heirs from fighting over their estate? I often recommend padded boxing gloves, but if you will, go ahead.
Well, I think even Richard earlier was talking about communication when it came to planning services. That's another topic, and it can be a delicate one. Not everybody wants to tell their loved ones about their estate plan. There may be some reason that they would rather keep that private, even though in a way it certainly, if everybody is aware of the basics of an estate plan, there'll be no surprises and less reason for a child or someone to be upset. But that doesn't always work, obviously. But I think in a perfect world, that's important. And I heard the example of someone that had a list. I had a client come in recently with the most documentation, a little notebook they had prepared for their executor that did list passwords, did list every account, everything that they could have thought about, and I was very impressed with that. Never seen quite that much detail, but that's certainly going to make it much easier for their executor to fulfill their duties. Some of it's just simply being very clear in your documents, and we talk about that when someone comes in, various scenarios. What if someone's predeceased? What if this grandchild who's having personal problems, I'm concerned that they might come into funds and not be able to properly manage them. What do we do with that? They're just, you do the best you can. Nothing's perfect. Nobody can walk out of an office signing a document and have everything perfect, but you do the very best you can under those circumstances. Sometimes, I've seen these, and we've never really done them. I wrote it down, no contest clauses. I've seen those in wills that simply says, now if anybody in this will who's a beneficiary contests the will, you have forfeited your inheritance. And I have to believe, and I think there's articles that say those probably are not all that enforceable. If someone's contesting will because of undue influence or someone lacks capacity, then the mere fact that they put that little phrase in the will is probably not going to make it impossible for that will to be challenged. But again, it all comes down, in most cases, if you can be as clear as you can be, again, acknowledging that in some families, that's very difficult for people. And I have to remind them, well, your will specifies your wishes, and if they don't like it, too bad for them. But hopefully they will remember what Mother and Dad wanted to do, and they're going to honor your wishes. And even if they don't want to, that will is going to be followed. The clerk's going to require that the executor follow the terms of that will, and if people are unhappy about it, well, that's too bad. But we obviously try to avoid that if possible.
Thank you. I think it is something that we have to think about. We have to be very intentional about what we want to see happen and so forth. You can't treat the 2 children or the 3 children all alike. You got one that's is a nuthead, another one that spends money. The point is, you may have to do something about that and word it in such a way that legally it will get through and will go through and so forth. Well, with that being said, I believe, are there any other questions possibly? Because you don't want to leave this on me, because oh, great, okay, just a second.
My question is to our lawyer. My question is to the lawyer up there. We have North Carolina wills, South Carolina wills, we'll forget the ones over the water, but where does the preference lie? Is it the last one that's made out that overrules?
Usually a will's, certainly the ones we draft, the very first sentence says, I hereby revoke any and all previous wills. And I generally instruct my clients, if you have those other wills lying around, you should shred them and destroy them, even though this language of the most recent will states that that's the case. If you have 2 or 3 lying around, and one's favorable to somebody that's maybe not, and the other one's not so favorable, in my opinion, you've gone to all this trouble to revise your wishes, that should be the one that stands. In terms of the South Carolina example, the Michigan, whatever, all I can say that is in North Carolina, for a will to be properly administered, it must be signed by the testator, that's the person who's doing the will, witnessed by two people who are disinterested. So if you wouldn't want one of your children who's an heir to witness the will, that signature wouldn't be valid. And ideally, those signatures are also then notarized. That's considered a self-proving will. If that goes to the clerk of court and they see two people have signed it and the notary has said, yep, I saw the testator sign it and I saw that signature was witnessed by these two individuals and I've notarized it, that will is going to be valid and will be probated.
So if in fact I have a North Carolina will that's got very little in it as far as assets are concerned, but it was the last one that I made out, and I might have, say, a South Carolina will where all my assets are, the North Carolina one would take preference.
Well, I would say that North Carolina will probably say, it's either going to say all of my assets go this way, or if it says I bequeath these three items, and if I follow your example, and it doesn't mention some other items that you have that there maybe are mentioned in the South Carolina will, we usually have a residuary clause that says, and everything else that I've not mentioned, this will goes to this person. So in that example, I think the most recent will for it to be a valid or I think a genuine will should address all of your assets. And even if they're not specifically identified, that residuary clause saying, and everything else goes to somebody should take care of those other matters.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
My question to the taxman or to the CPA is you opened by saying that you've been given a headache with the recent tax implements that have come through, but 99% of it didn't apply to us, but 1% did. What's in the 1% that applies to us?
In this room, probably the top one is the deduction for people who are 65 years or older. During President Trump's candidacy, he made some promises about making your Social Security benefits non-taxable. And when they looked at the figures, that was not doable. That would have been way too expensive for the government. So instead, in the new tax law, there's a provision that each person who is 65 years or older gets a special $6,000 deduction. So and that is phased out or limited if your income is too high. But an example of a married couple, and if your income is under $150,000 a year, you would each get a special $6,000 deduction. This is on top of all your other deductions. Like if you're deducting your medical and your charity, this $12,000 would be on top of that. And as far as how much tax that saves you, that depends on what tax bracket you're in. $6,000 in a 22% tax bracket is, what, $1,200 and something savings each. But if your income is, that married couple, if their income is over $250,000, you get nothing. There's about 100 clauses in the tax law that are phased out as your income gets higher. Thank goodness for computers in my profession, because if your income changes $1 on a tax return, it may change figures in 50 different places on the tax return because of that $1. If I was doing them manually, I would find another job.
Thank you very much. And I suppose my last question, which is perhaps flippant, would be to Richard, and you had a question asked of you as to what was the right time to die, I think it was, wasn't it? I think my answer would be, forget all the professional fees, just die the day the money runs out.
That is the best way it looks on paper. That's right.
Okay, I believe this has been an exciting time. I hope your questions, and I see some heads nodding, I guess it was exciting. If there was something that was not answered, you've got two options. One, don't let these guys go without at least speaking, because we're all different. We all have different things that we'd like to see done. So you may have an opportunity to chat with them now, or get their card and call them up, schedule a meeting. And the third option, I believe we're going to have this again next year about the same time. Wait until then. This has been a tough crowd. This has been a tough crowd. Carson, thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, for coming out, and appreciate you. I believe we have ice cream. We have ice cream. That's all right. And I believe it's tax deductible as a corporation, maybe. I don't know.
We do, one last thing, we do have contact information for the experts in the back, and
Contact information
and a
on the
sign-in sheet as
experts.
well.
Top of the standard. Yeah, it does. Although I doubt if you're staying out here, you probably don't take the standard. But it would be, it would be.